What's up, guys? I thought I'd give you a quick video on the care of a baby bearded dragon, and the housing and things like that. So just to let you know that this tank was cleaned out yesterday, and this is just going to give you a quick idea of how often you're going to need to clear them out, how much food they go through and things like that. So you can see it's pretty much a complete mess again. So for a baby bearded dragon, I'd recommend just using kitchen towel or paper towel or whatever you call it, because if you use sand you're going to go through it a lot, and it's also quite dangerous when you're using the babies, for the risk of impaction and things like that. So yeah, I'd recommend just using paper towel, but you won't have to use it for very long, only until they're up to a decent juvenile size. It's just to protect your baby, really. When they're this sort of size, they still need to be on it because of obviously the risk of impaction. But there are some substrates out there that you could use if you wanted to, that completely take the risk right down. For example, there's beach chips that you can use, which is what I actually use with some of my adults. And your tank can be as plain or as extravagant as you like. It's your choice and everything, but this is what I'd suggest anyway. So I've just got the paper towel in the bottom, and then I've got 3 pieces of wood here, which are just acting as their basking spot and give them somewhere to climb. And then they've got this vine in the corner, you can see, and they also climb up that as well, so it helps with that side, and it gives them somewhere on the cool side to sort of shoot up and go and have a sit up high. And then they've just got this this is actually an aquarium piece, but it's got inside, it's got some sphagnum moss, so it just gives them a sort of hide there as well. And then obviously you got your food bowl and your water bowl, everything like that. I'd recommend giving them a water bowl about this sort of size. You can see some crickets decided to commit suicide in there. But yeah, I'd recommend using something around this size so they've got somewhere to get some hydration, and also they can have a good sit in there and cool down if they wanted to. But this is actually just a piece of packaging that came off an iPhone case. So you can use anything for these guys. And then they've got their basking lamp and their UVB. And this tank is, I think it's about 2.5, yeah, it must be 2.5 foot because this tank's 3 foot wide. So yeah, it's 2.5 foot, and I've got 2 in there, but I could keep about, I'd say 4 or 5 in this sort of size because they are so small. Obviously when they started to get a bit bigger they'd have to go into a bigger tank, but what I'd recommend when you're getting a baby is to, like, if it's a pet, I'd recommend getting a much larger tank and then sectioning it off so it's not so big for the babies, which wouldn't cause them not to eat, which does happen sometimes. So if you say got a 4 foot tank, you'd have to turn it into maybe a 2.5 to 3 foot, which can be achieved quite easily, but obviously it's not going to look great if it's like a feature in your living room or something like that. So if you did end up doing that, all you could do is just get a piece of cardboard and cut it out and then stick it to the sides and things like that. Just make sure they can't get through anyway, and then just try and cover it up to make it look like the actual side. It's just basically to help them, because sometimes when you put a baby in the tanks and they're too big, they won't eat because they're too scared and there's too much space and things like that. And it's basically the same as a Chinese water dragon. If you put them in too big of a tank first, or even an iguana actually, if you put them in too big of a tank, they're not going to eat and things like that. So yeah, this is my setup anyway. On average I'm cleaning this tank out maybe 2-3 times a week. So you can see, but that's just my personal preference. If you had substrate in here, you could easily spot check it, spot clean it and things like that, but that's just my personal preference because it does tend to smell after a while. But yeah, and if you wanted to use anything, say you found it in your garden or anything like stones, something like that, you can do, but you can't put them in straight away. You'd have to put them in a bucket or something like that, a container that can hold water. It'd have to be completely submerged in water first, and then it would need about 5% of bleach. If you don't know what 5% is, I usually use say a bucket when I'm doing this sort of thing, and then all I'll do is for a whole bucket of water I'll put in 1 cup of bleach, and then just stir it around, make sure it's all over the place, and then you can leave that in overnight, and then the next day when it's been there for about 24 hours, something like that, take the bleach out and then fill the bucket up. Well, clean out the bucket first, make sure there's no bleach in there, and then fill it up with plain water, and then submerge the rock in there again and leave it. I usually leave it for about 6 hours, and then that's fine, just to make sure it's clean. And then lastly, just give it a quick rinse off, just to make sure everything's off it, and then just check it in, it'll be fine. Also, with feeding veg to these guys, it can be quite hard. Luckily with these two that I've got here, it's really not hard at all. They just went straight for it as soon as I put it in. But sometimes they might not eat any, or they might just not be bothered. They are quite hard animals to get to eat the veg when they're this young. But there's some tricks you can do. If you were feeding them sweet corn, for example, you can roll it, because they do like their food to be moving, and it does sort of attract them to it. So you could roll it along the cage, or you can get a thing, I'm not sure what it's called, but it basically sits under the bowl and it will vibrate the food a little bit to make it look like it's moving. That can work, but I'm sure there's many other easy ways to do it. Or you can just simply put the food in there and put some mealworms underneath it, and that'll make it look like it's moving as well. You know, you don't need to put too many in there. Or what I tend to do sometimes, if these guys don't eat much, I'll show you now. Let's make sure this one doesn't want to run away. There we go. I'll just put them on it, and then get the other one. That one doesn't want to come. Where's he gone? Gotcha. I'll just put them both on it, and they've run off. But I'd usually put them on it and then give it a quick shake around my finger, you know, go like that with the food, just to let them see that it is moving, and then leave them, and they should go straight for it. They usually do. So that's it anyway, guys. That's my setup anyway. But anyway, it's your personal preference, it's your pet and everything, but that's all I'd suggest anyway, until they get a bit bigger, to a more tolerant size where they can tolerate things like the sand and stuff like that. But that's what I'd use anyway. So thanks everybody, bye.